All right, welcome back everybody to Joshua's Magic, a channel about the intersection of spirituality and the more mundane material. I've got another live stream today. This is about Alice A. Bailey quotes on mental polarization. All right, welcome back everybody let me get the sound off here. So, mental polarization is basically where you're looking at things from the point of the mind instead of so emotionally driven or reactive. But we will get into the details of that with these quotes. So here is the first one. Okay, and by the way, you can find these on my Instagram if you'd like to see them during the week as I post them. I appreciate having you over there. It'd be great. So I have earlier pointed out to you that the basic qualities for which we look are sensitivity, impersonality, psychic capacity, and mental polarization. By we, he's talking about the Masters of Wisdom. Upon these, I would like very briefly to enlarge, and then will lay before you. Next comes and then skipping ahead, he goes into all the other ones, but I'm focusing on mental polarization. Next comes the quality of mental polarization. What exactly is this power or quality? For you, at this time, it must express itself in two ways. One, through the life of meditation. Two, through the control of the astral body. Increasingly, must your inner life be lived upon the mental plane. Steadily and without dissent must the attitude of meditation be held, not for a few minutes each morning, or at specific moments throughout the day, but constantly all day long. It infers a constant orientation to life and to the handling of life from the angle of the soul. This does not refer to what is so often referred to as turning one's back upon the world. The disciple faces the world, but he faces it from the level of the soul. Looking clear-eyed upon the world of human affairs, in the world yet not of the world, is the right attitude, expressed for us by the Christ. Increasingly must the normal, powerful life of the emotional, astral desire and glamorous nature be controlled and rendered quiescent by the life of the soul, functioning through the mind. The emotions, which are normally self-centered and personal, must be transmuted into realizations of universality and impersonality. The astral body must become the organ through which the love of the soul can pour. Desire must give place to aspiration, and that, in its turn, must be merged into the group life and the group good. Glamour must give place to reality, and the pure light of the mind must pour into all the dark places of the lower nature. These are the results of mental polarization, and are brought about by definite meditation and the cultivation of the meditative attitude. And that's from Discipleship in the New Age, Volume 1, pages 47 to 53. So he lays out these qualities that they look for in their disciples. And one of them is, of course, mental polarization. And I think part of the reason for that is it creates a clearer and accurate, more accurate channel that they can reach people. And the precision of truth and the energies expressed are not diluted or glamorized with more emotional polarization. And part of it, so he lists two things here. One is through the life of meditation. And it seems to me to be focusing on a mental level. I mean, that's part of what meditation is, to be one-pointed and focused. And the goal he's looking for from at least the student he's writing this letter to is to see them shift their consciousness on that level and keep it there for as long as they can, and to control the astral body. That's the second point. The astral or emotional body, that your emotions aren't getting wildly out of control and you're not getting too riled up by things, that you're able to be calm and those emotional waves don't disturb your consciousness or take you off of the point of focus you're meant to be on. So let us move into considering the second quote. And by the way, if you're enjoying this, please leave a like on it. Help me out a bunch, and I really appreciate it. Here's the second one. The psychic life of a disciple is a definite part of his spiritual expression. It is only when it is uncontrolled, overemphasized, and overestimated that it is undesirable. It is a hindrance when it is misused or regarded as a substitution for other forms of divine expression. Then it produces that which is undesirable and immerses the disciple in the world of glamour and illusion. Psychic powers are valuable aids to service when rightly developed and sanely used. They can be unfolded safely by the man who is mentally polarized and rightly orientated towards service. You're no doubt surprised that you are the first that I have chosen out of this particular group of disciples to be prepared for psychic work. My reason is that under your outer reserve and your strong mental polarization, there exists a powerful psychic body at a relatively high state of development. This you have never used in this life, but was brought to its present stage of unfoldment in earlier lives. So strong have been your psychic tendencies that your soul chose in this life to balance and round out your personality by placing the emphasis upon the mind aspect. It was, however, your past psychic links which led you into this organization, whose work you have aided for some years, an organization whose work is predominantly carried out on psychic and astral levels. This should be proof to you of the accuracy of my diagnosis. And that's from Discipleship in New Age, Volume 1, page 11. So another quality the masters look for is psychic development or psychic sensitivity. And this disciple he's referring to is seemingly built up a good degree of that in past lives, but hasn't really used it in this one. And a note about the way he's using the term psychic here. It primarily has to do with the astral plane and the emotional body. So there's sort of higher psychism, which might have to do with the intuitional plane or the mental plane, but here he's really just referring to it as regarding the astral emotional plane. And he's saying it is divine expression and it's useful, but if there's too much focus on it, then it can lead to all these glamours and illusions. Like if you're always looking to hear for the message from whoever in a psychic way, and you feel a sense of specialness and you're better than people, and that's some of where you can get off balance with it. But if your psychic skills, you're really using them for a kind of higher service or to direct people when necessary, or you're not going to them all the time for everything, then it can be useful. And the mentally polarized disciple is able to put those in the right perspective because he's focused on the mind. The mind exists on like sort of the level above the emotional body. And so if you're centered up there, you can see this clearly. But if you're focused in the emotional body, it's all just whatever you feel in the moment, and you're not able to step back from it as much. So move on to the next quote here. Next quote further talks about the emotional body. The emotional body is at this time the most important body in the personality for several reasons. It is a complete unit, unlike the physical and mental bodies. It is the center of polarization for the majority of humanity. It is the most difficult body to control and is practically the very last body to be completely subjugated. The reason for this is that the vibration of desire has dominated not only the human kingdom, but also the animal and vegetable kingdoms in a lesser sense, so that the evolving inner man has to work against inclinations set up in these kingdoms. Before the spirit can function through forms of the fifth or spiritual kingdom, this desire vibration has to be eliminated and the selfish inclination transmuted into spiritual aspiration. The emotional body forms practically a unit within the physical body, for the average man functions almost entirely at the instigation of the emotional, his lowest vehicle automatically obeying the behests of the higher. It is also the body that connects most directly, as has been oftentimes said, with the intuitional levels. And one path of attainment lies that way. In meditation, the emotional body should be controlled from the mental plane. When the polarization has been transferred into the mental body through forms of meditation and intensity of purpose and of will, then the emotional body becomes quiescent and receptive. So the emotional body or emotional inclinations are the line of least resistance. Not just because the level of development we're at, but because those have also been built up in the animal and vegetable kingdoms, which are a part of the human being also. So it's really a tough thing to deal with. But the goal is to not suppress your emotions or to pretend you don't have them, but it's to gradually transmute them into higher things, aspirations that are more receptive to the intuitional plane or from your soul. So, you can get really excited about things and getting what you want. But if you can transmute qualities of compassion and genuine empathy towards other people, that's a step in that process of transmuting the emotional level into being more receptive to higher qualities expressing themselves through it. And the next quote, this is a little more along the lines of world development. Humanity, as has often been said, is now the world disciple. Why is this? Primarily for two reasons. Men are rapidly awakening mentally. The whole world is thinking primarily along political lines and along lines of current ideologies. Even people long dormant are now convulsed by mental processes. This shift in human consciousness involves a rapid focusing of the human intention on mental levels. This mental polarization is essential to discipleship. It is as yet a general trend, but much progress has been made as a result and tension of war. Men are rapidly developing an understanding of goodwill. The world is full of movements for relief and for the amelioration of human distress, and this from the point of small and large communities, and also nationally and internationally. It is this the Red Cross, UNRWA, and many analogous and well-intentioned affiliations of men everywhere bear witness. This indicates not only mental polarization, but responsiveness to the love nature of God. These together indicate a fusion and a sensitivity which is new in human history and which is most encouraging, testifying as it does to the success at last of the evolutionary process. The time, therefore, when the hierarchy had to deal almost entirely with the emotional devotee is past. By the hierarchy means basically the masters of wisdom. And this has come about far more rapidly than had been anticipated. The task of the masters before the 18th century was to take the emotional aspirants and train them in the technique of mental polarization, prior to permitting them to enter their ashrams. This was the best that could be expected, and in the last analysis was all that was required, because mentally polarized aspirants to accepted discipleship would have been of little use in the work of lifting mankind nearer the light. The ashram exists primarily for that purpose. But the mentally focused humanity of today cannot be reached by emotional workers alone. The mental approach is called for, and a higher type of disciple needed. So he's kind of outlining developments in human history. For those of you that don't know, the 20th century was considered to be a massive step forward in humanity, primarily in the dealing with the problems that led to the world wars and and the shifts in consciousness that happened as a result of the wars and the aftermath of it. But the aid organizations, he's saying it's a sign of mental polarization. And I guess it's because people are now thinking what's the best for the whole instead of just feeling what do I want. There's a concern for other people and to better conditions of the world. And he also makes the case that in the past, people were much more of an emotional quality, and just getting an aspirin to be more mentally polarized was the best they could kind of do. Um, but today, because humanity is more mentally polarized, the people that are working to serve humanity need to be more mentally polarized to reach those people themselves. Just good feeling, emotional sounding things aren't going to really meet the needs of humanity today. So move on to the last quote. Now, this is again from Discipleship in the New Age here. So he's writing a letter to somebody, and he references this other person with these certain initials as well. This has been a hard year, my brother, and as with your brother, DPR, I seek not to add any fresh complications or considerations to the load which you already carry. You are likewise a clear-sighted disciple, and there is small need for me to indicate the glamour which at this time disturbs your service. One thought, however, I would give you for careful pondering. The personality, with its aims and ambitions, its intelligence and experience, in itself constitutes a potent glamour, and one with a most potent effect upon you. When, as in your case, the personality is of a relatively high order and well integrated, the problem is then very real. This you realize, but in moments of service, you are apt to fall into personality glamour without being aware of it, and those around you serving you help you not. Walk in the light, my brother. Let the light and radiance of your soul illumine your service, and let your intellect not prove to be the dominating factor. Let spontaneous love and not a cultivated kindness conditions your relations with your fellow man. Be not glamored by your own grasp of spiritual realities and by your spiritual knowledge. You have much to do in this life, and particularly in the next life when this life's lessons have been learnt and assimilated. For this you must consciously prepare by the development of clear-sighted vision. I should perhaps point out to you that illusion, more than glamour, is your major difficulty, for you are mentally polarized. So this gives some balance to the other thoughts on mental polarization, and talks about maybe some of the overdoing it in terms of mental polarization, that you can be too practiced instead of spontaneous and loving. It can be, all in your head and not enough in your heart. And he's asking him to really allow his love to spontaneously manifest in his service instead of having it all, sort of laid out in a nice little box, so to speak. And for people that are emotionally polarized, they need to work on being more mentally polarized. But for people that are too mentally polarized, they need to, sort of ease off a little bit and allow the pure love of divine life to pour through them in their service. So that's it for considering the quotes. I hope it's kind of elucidated this idea of mental polarization and the value of it. If you have any comments or questions, just leave them down there. I'll try to respond to them. But I think we will do a brief, or however long you want it to be, pondering on mental polarization. So I'm just going to pull up an image to use here, and then we will do a sort of contemplation on it. So to begin, take yourself from where you are and Imagine yourself stepping up bit by bit to the top of a mountain. And each step you go, you're able to put down things hindering you and put them away for a time. When you finally reach the summit, symbolizing a certain level of clarity achieved, take the time and focus yourself on the level of the mind. And look out on your life and your field of service and consider what good you might be doing from a more mental place and less emotionally inclined. And just take some time to analyze the problems and think about things from that point of view. All right. If you need more time, feel free to pause the video and continue contemplating. But that's it. Signing off. This is Joshua's Magic. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing, leaving a like, and sharing with somebody who else might benefit from it.